Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about what it's like being at a year sober. I just hit 13 months alcohol free, and I wanted to talk about how I am balancing finding peace in my sobriety, but also maintaining that vigilance against possible relapse and those sneaky thoughts that pop in, and making sure that I'm not getting too complacent in my sobriety. So let's go ahead and get into it. Before we get into the video, I do want to just wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a safe holiday, and a Happy New Year. It is freezing where I live. I live in Georgia, and it is so cold. It definitely feels like Christmas. I'm kind of loving it. We're all bundled up and snuggling by the fire, and it just feels so cozy at Christmas time. But I hope you are all staying warm and staying safe out there. I also wanted to mention that I am going to be linking a few of my previous videos in the description box. So if you're new here and you haven't seen all the videos I've made, I'm gonna link maybe my first video and a couple of other ones. My first ever video, I believe I was 3 months sober. So it's kind of fun to go back and see the transformation. And so I will go ahead and link those in the description box of this video. I also wanted to say thank you so much for being here. It means so much to me to be able to share this journey with you guys and to be able to be a part of yours as well. I love reading the comments and hearing your struggles and how you are overcoming them. And I just absolutely love being able to connect with you guys in that way. Other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. Like I was saying, I just hit 13 months alcohol free, and I'm feeling so much peace in my sobriety. However, I know there is a fine line between peace and complacency. 12 to 14 months is where many people relapse. And so I'm being extra cautious right now and really just watching myself to make sure that I am, staying solid in my sobriety and remembering, the joy and the goodness of this sober life. In the past, when I've had a relapse, there is almost always the same kind of mindset that was happening before I did go back to drinking. And that was just absolutely not appreciating my sobriety properly and really taking it for granted. And so as I'm approaching, 13, 14 months, where I know that many people go back to drinking, I am being very aware of how I'm feeling about my sobriety. And I do feel very grateful still. And so that is kind of letting me know that I'm on the right path and I'm, protecting my sobriety and keeping it safe and maintaining this joyful, sober life that I love and that I have worked hard for. I don't want to lose it. Especially as we are closing out on 2022, I have been doing a lot of reflection because I haven't had any alcohol this year. I went into 2022 with, I think maybe a month sober. So I started out the new year on the right foot, and I haven't had any alcohol this year. And so I really have been doing some soul searching and just reflecting back on this amazing year that I've had without alcohol. And, obviously life is not ever going to be perfect. We're always going to have our struggles, but even through the ups and the downs in my life this year, something that has been constant is my sobriety and the inner work that I have been doing and the healing and the soul searching, and all of that is just something that I'm so proud of. I'm so proud of myself for going through that and maintaining my sobriety. And it also, again, when we reflect back on our struggles and the things that we've gone through, it really helps you appreciate it more, because it can be so easy to take it for granted, especially in our society where alcohol is, so normalized and it's so accepted. It's really easy to fall into that mindset again of like, oh, well, I've been so good, I made it a year. See, I don't have a problem, maybe I'll go back to drinking. And I know, because I've done that, I've had periods of sobriety and I've gone back to drinking because of those sneaky mindsets that creep on in, as well as the society that we live in. It's just something that we can't escape at this point. It's so normalized and it's so accessible and everybody does it, and it's normalized. So especially at the holidays, it's so easy to fall back into those habits. And for me, reflecting back on my whys and reflecting back on all the work that I have done helps me stay sober, and it helps me keep the right mindset to carry on in my sobriety. And another thing, this is something that I do talk about a lot, and I think it's really important, especially if you are in your early days of sobriety. But when I was in my, first early days of sobriety, my first few months of sobriety, I was journaling daily. And I think it really helped me, because when you are first getting sober, your emotions and your hormones and just your body is, out of whack. You are not in homeostasis, and your body is fighting to, cope with getting the alcohol out of your system. And I think it's really helpful to write down what you're going through, and write down the anxiety and the sadness and the pain, and to describe what it is you're going through. Because when you get to like a year sober, you can look back and see, how much you were struggling, because we forget the agony, we forget the misery. And I think it's so important to, not wallow in it. Obviously, you don't want to, stay there too long, but I think it's really helpful to look back on where you were when you were trying to get sober, when you so desperately wanted to be sober, because it is so easy to take it for granted. I could sit here at 13 months and be like, it's not a big deal. And sometimes I do think those thoughts. I do think like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But then when I go back and I look at my journal and I see the struggle, I read the struggle, I read my words on the days that I was just brutally hungover and just broken because I thought I wasn't going to be able to kick this thing. I felt like alcohol had me, and that I wasn't going to be able to make it a day, a week, a month. That, even after when I would relapse, I just thought to myself, like, I'm just not going to be able to get this. And so when you get some sober time, it's so helpful to look back and remember where you came from, and to really appreciate and celebrate, the sobriety that you do have, because it is a big deal, and it is a lot, and it's important. And so many people say this: if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. There are people who struggle with alcohol until the day they die. Some people struggle with alcohol until it finally kills them. So if you are out here doing the sober thing in a society that worships alcohol, tells you that you need alcohol to celebrate, to commemorate a birthday, to literally do anything, then seriously, please take a moment to, really appreciate yourself, and know that it is no easy feat. And if you are out here doing the sober thing, it is to be celebrated. And I'm proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. It is a huge deal. And please don't ever forget that. I also wanted to talk about the sneaky thoughts that try to pop up, no matter how many days or years you have sober. And I think it gets less frequent with the more sober time you have, but still, they're still there. Those sneaky thoughts of, well, I'm good now. I'm just gonna have one. I've been so good. What the heck, And so I think it's always important, no matter how many, years of sobriety you have, just to stay on top of that, and to really, when you find yourself going down the road of romanticizing the drinking, and thinking about, the people going to the breweries and going to the wineries, and the glamorized version of drinking. And even now, with the holidays, I'm sure you see certain people, if you have social media, or maybe just in your friend circle, you see people going out and cheersing and taking shots and having fun and work parties, boozed up and people dancing and everything looks great and happy. But you have to remember, people aren't showing you the other side of drinking. When I was drinking, I would show the glamorous side of it and, the cute pictures before, we got sloppy. And you have to remind yourself of that, Yes, there are people who can have one and that's it, and it really doesn't bother them. But I think that is probably more rare. I think that most people, struggle more with alcohol than they're willing to admit, And so when you see your friends or people on social media having a blast with alcohol and you start feeling that pain of, oh, I wish I could be doing that. Just remind yourself that they are going to feel like death in the morning. And you don't know what else is happening behind the scenes that they're not sharing. They're not going to be sharing the big fight that they had with their spouse at the work Christmas party because they were both, drunk. They're not going to be showing you, the lost phone or the lost purse or, the DUI or, all those things that happen to many people behind the scenes that they don't talk about. So just remember that when you are witnessing this and feel those feelings, just remember. And then also remind yourself of what happened when you drank. Yes, there were good times, probably. We all have times where we went out and drank and we didn't, get arrested or, burn our life to the ground. We all have moments where we were able to drink and control it. But the bigger picture is, how is alcohol making you feel and the aftermath? And that's what I like to focus on, because I can find plenty of moments where I, controlled it. But I really need to focus on the lows that alcohol brought me to and the mental toll it took on myself. And I think that at the end, that was what really pushed me to get sober, was the mental aspect. The consequences alcohol had on my mental health I could not ignore them. And so reminding myself of those things, again, also keeps me sober and helps me remember and be grateful for the sober life that I'm living now. And the beautiful thing about sobriety is that the longer you are sober, the more likely it is that your life is going to get better. And, that's just a fact, because alcohol has so many ways of slowly sabotaging our life, It eats away at our health. It eats away at our money, at our appearance, at our weight, at our health, all these things, at our relationships. It eats away at everything. And it's not necessarily a big one-time thing. I think alcohol is sort of insidious in that way, where it slowly eats away and then you're hooked. And now what? That's kind of where so many of us found ourselves. Like I was saying, as you stay sober, your life is going to improve. And it may be a slow and steady improvement, and that's okay. I have found myself being okay with a more steady improvement, because I know when I first got sober, and a couple of other times where I would get 3 months sober and go back to drinking, if you didn't have a huge rock bottom, like I didn't have a huge rock bottom. I just knew that alcohol was, putting me on the fast path to maybe having a rock bottom. But I didn't have any kind of defining moment. I didn't lose my kids or my house or my relationship. I didn't get a DUI. I didn't have any of those kind of earth-shattering things that kind of force you to get sober, you don't have a choice. So for me, it's when I got sober and my life didn't dramatically get better at first, I was kind of maybe I should just go back to drinking. And I know so many of you feel that way too, because I've read comments of you guys saying that. And the best thing that I can say with that is just hang on and try to have patience, because it does get better. And I think the longer you've been drinking, the longer it takes for you maybe to see some of those benefits, because it takes our body time to heal and to regenerate and all of those things. So you might not be losing a bunch of weight at 3 months sober, but give it time, because you might, by 9 months, you might be losing weight finally and feeling better. So you just have to give it time, and, slow and steady sometimes. And I know that for so many of us who want that instant gratification, that can be kind of annoying to hear, but really, if you do hang in there, it does get better, and it continues to get better, and your life continues to keep improving, and it's way better than risking, a slow, insidious decline with alcohol. I also wanted to mention that, when you get sober, it's a really great opportunity for you to really work on yourself and dig deep into your trauma and your pain, and take a really good look at your life, because if you don't rectify the things that were causing you to drink in the first place, you're just much more likely to go back to drinking. So I really encourage you to do the soul searching and to take a good hard look at your life and analyze the things that aren't making you happy, and taking accountability for the things that you can change and the things that you can make better in your life, in order to make a life more enjoyable, to where you don't even think about alcohol, to where alcohol is irrelevant and it's not even something that you really think about anymore. We have to build a life that is so good, we do not want to even think about going back to drinking. All right, guys, I think that is going to do it. I just wanted to make a quick little video today and see how you all were doing. Wish you a Merry Christmas, and send you guys so much love and so much support. You know that you always have a friend over here who is rooting for your sobriety, and I'm so proud of you guys for doing this and for being here. And I appreciate you guys so much taking the time to listen to a little bit of what I have to say. And until next time, take care of yourselves. I love you, and I will see you real soon in the next one. Bye.